Welcome back to the digital broadcast. With me, I have Zoe Moore that's going to talk to us. Zoe, how are we doing today? Welcome to Louisville.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Glad to be back. When's the last time you're here, and what are you excited about this trip?
Last time I was here September for No Madness Fest, which was a super cool event. And excited this time just to reconnect with people.
Yeah, reconnect.
Yeah, reconnect.
I saw that you said something very interesting where you feel that event planners are superheroes.
Yeah, yes, I do.
Tell us why you feel that way.
Well, I think I was actually just talking to Belinda at MPI, and she had a glass of wine in her hand, and that's after she's opened up the floor, sessions are running. To pull all of this together, you've got to have some type of magical power.
Oh, yes.
It has to come from deep, being able to keep all the balls in the air at the same time, and then engage people in a way where they feel seen each time that you network with them while you're checking emails, checking your watch, and doing all these things. So that's a superhero power, the ability to be kind of Superman, Clark Kent. Yeah, that's definitely
all the above. I agree.
Yes.
Great quote there. Can you share with us the difference between EDI and DEI, and tell us why you now use EDI? I think that's very important for people to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have this quote that I've been using for years: when inclusion is the behavior, equity is the strategy, then diversity will be the result. And so that requires people to focus not just on diversity, because when you do focus on diversity, which DEI is that D first, you end up tokenizing people, where you invite people who are marginalized or underserved or underrepresented to be in the space, but the environment is not one that is inclusive of them, where their voices are valued. Versus if you put the E first and you focus on equity, you create an environment in which they will thrive. So equity and inclusion are the primary focus. And, somewhere in that equation, diversity is a result, because now people from all walks of life will come to your organization, will come to your chapter, come to your event.
Okay. Why the shift? Why the change in kind of the terminology?
I think because there is a lack of strategy. DEI is under attack right now because people don't know how to define it. They have a lot of performative initiatives, but not necessarily knowing what impact it will make. Also not really focused on how it will be measurable and sustainable. So my goal with putting the equity first, making equity a strategy, let's look at frameworks. Let's look at methodologies that you're going to use to move from a space of being aspirational to or operationalizing it within your decision making. Every decision that you make should be inclusive of DEI, of diversity, of equitable practices, processes, making sure that you are putting representation first across all social identities and in every area of your business.
Can you share with us an example maybe where EDI was more effective than maybe a DE&I strategy?
Yeah, I think in most companies, when you're talking about recruiting, I got a lot of my, formulas, methodologies from the tech industry, right? Where I saw how it was going wrong, where, we need diversity recruiting. And you would have these large, waves of people who didn't historically exist in that organization now have these roles and positions. And then in 1 year, you see a high attrition rate. Those same people that were invited in were leaving. And so then you start to ask the question, which a strategy requires you to ask questions: why aren't they staying? And the answers were repeated. The environment, my voice wasn't valued. I wasn't heard. I wasn't seen. I wasn't respected. That's because, yes, they got the numbers, the diversity was there, but there was no strategy around actually creating a culture of inclusion.
I love it. Okay, great example. Another example, and I'm particularly interested because I'm a DJ, professional DJ. How can you give us an example of how music and an event can be more inclusive?
Absolutely. Music is a universal language, just like food, right? And so we want to connect people and not assume that, a certain generation of music is going to appeal to the current generation. I remember an anecdote I'll share. I used to work at a physical therapy office. I've had many lives. So yes, I used to work at a physical therapy office. A client was, getting their work done. Patsy Cline came on. At the time, I didn't know who Patsy Cline was.
Crazy. Great song, but anyways.
Right, I didn't know. And I said, who is this? He's like, oh my gosh, you don't know who Patsy Cline is? That's so un-American. And I said, do you know who Little Richard is? Or I started naming all these artists that I listened to. He was like, no. And I was like, that's so un-American. And what I was trying to prove the point to him, and he was like, okay, I get it. We don't know each other's music, But music at an event can bring people together where we educate people across different instruments, different generations, different genres, and making sure that we're playing a wide span of diverse music that does that, you know.
So how can I ensure that when I'm playing music at an event that I'm as inclusive as possible?
I would say create that playlist. Be proactive in your playlist. Get to know your audience. That's something that we're struggling with in our industry, is understanding that the demographics of our audience is important. Look at that registration data. What is the age groups that are going to be there? What regions are people coming from? And maybe ask some key questions. It starts with the RFP or it starts with the registration process. What music do you like? It's as simple as that. And then curate your playlist in a proactive way where people can say, oh, that's my jam. I put that on the form. I actually see DJ Imani, playing that song. And then give people that shout out, And so I know you already do that work. I see how you work. That was a plug, shameless plug.
Shameless plug accepted.
Yes.
You mentioned demographics. Can you share with us what's the importance of representation metrics?
Yes, absolutely. So, a lot of times representation metrics is something that people push back on. They want to challenge. They feel like it's reverse discrimination because you have to match this quota. But you have to understand, just like music, people want to hear music that's reflective of them. They want to see themselves represented in leadership. I, as a Black woman of the African diaspora, want to see more Black women in leadership. And right now, that's an area that our industry and across the business ecosystem that's struggling. And the reason why I want to see them is because they can relate to my lived experiences. They'll be good mentors. They'll understand when I have that waiting to exhale moment.
Oh.
And I can just say waiting to exhale, and they might start singing Whitney Houston.
We'll go back to Phoenix. We won't burn anyone's clothing in the car.
Right, I won't.
But we
That's
understand.
not the Angela I used to have the Angela Bassett arms and the waiting to exhale.
Okay.
But I'm still working on that. But yeah, I think it's a matter of seeing yourself reflected.
Waiting to exhale
do people
moment.
see me? Do they understand me? And it's not to say that someone who is different from me doesn't understand me, but more than likely, someone who has a shared experience with me that's willing to open their ears and listen will hear me in a different way.
Why do you think we still struggle as an industry to see people like you in leadership positions?
I think there's a fear. There's a mixed bag of reasons. One, we're underestimated. Two, I did this session with Deshaun Wynn, a mutual friend of ours.
Yes, we love Deshaun.
Where oftentimes Black women are described as being intimidating because we run our households, or we're the matriarchs in our family, or because we grew up in a single family home. That was my situation. I always saw my mom running things. And so when it comes time to make a decision, when I'm on a committee, when I'm on a project, I make a decision rather effectively. I was also in the Army. And so that gets attached to me as a description that I'm intimidating, when in fact, I'm just decisive, right? And I'm very clear and to the point and direct. And that's not to hurt anybody's feelings. I do so with tact. But when people assume or have this perspective of me that I'm intimidating, then they don't want to put me in leadership roles because they feel like if something doesn't go my way, I'm going to walk in the room flipping tables. And that's not the case. I just have a very strategic, way of operating, the way that I carry myself. And so that's what we need to dismantle, are these biases that put people into boxes about how they're going to behave when they're never even given the opportunity. And when in fact you find that, women in leadership, because of our nurturing, because of our ability to manage so much, we can run circles around a lot of folks in leadership position currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how can we bridge that gap of understanding? Because that's where it seems like there's a huge gap of understanding.
Yeah, I'm a aspiring historian, but I'm a historian because I love understanding how we got here. And understanding how we got here requires us to understand historically, what laws were in place, what social attitudes were in place that have socialized us to believe that women should be nurturers or in the household. There was recently a commencement speech that was given.
Yes.
And in that commencement speech, a lot of people don't understand why it was harmful to the women that he was speaking to, because it relegated those women to a certain vocational role in which they are just to be mothers and wives. And when women, we aspire to be so much more than that. We can be both. We can be wife, mother, and can I cuss on this? Bad beep.
No. Yes.
You can be a bad mama
beat.
jamma.
Yeah, bad mama jamma.
A bad
Yes.
mama jamma in the workplace. and nobody should tell you what you should or cannot be. And so we bridge the gap through education. I think going back a little bit in history, understanding the barriers that women face, and then reducing those barriers. So we have to sit with the discomfort that barriers do exist, whether it's in pay equity, whether it's in, how people engage across the workforce, how women are perceived, so that we can navigate those barriers and dismantle them.
Okay, well said. If I were to bring out Thomas Padron to come join us right now, what would you say to him?
Thomas Padron, thank you. I would say thank you. If it had not been for Professor Thomas Padron at CSU East Bay, which is California State East Bay in Hayward, I would have never been introduced to MPI. I would have never been introduced to chapter leadership and pushed by MPI NCC, Northern California chapter, to work with global or to sit in a global DEI advisory committee position to really jumpstart my career. Like, my career is based around my work with MPI. And don't tell anybody, but I think I have an MPI tattoo somewhere. I've been with this organization for years.
Yes.
And, I have Paul Vandeventer on speed dial now.
Okay.
But it's also that MPI is not afraid to introduce me to other organizations, PCMA, ILEA, because this work, diversity, equity, inclusion, or EDI,
yes.
equity, diversity, inclusion, is imperative across our business ecosystem. So yeah, I would say, Professor Padron, if you're out there, if you're listening, thank you.
I love it. Well, thank you for all the work you do and how you consistently show up and represent all of us.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. Keep doing the
pleasure.
work and let us know how we can help you.
Okay.
And enjoy the rest of your time here in Louisville.
Can I say my out statement?
You can go ahead and say your out statement, yes.
Let's grow together.
All right.
All
there
right.
we go. All right. Thank you very much, Zoe, for doing that.
All right.
Up next, we have Dave Deasley coming to us from Wordly. Stick to us. We'll be back with him in about 1 minute. Thank you.